Welcome everyone from all over the world to this webinar today. My name is Jory Helland. I'm an Associate Recruitment Officer at the IAEA. Today we're going to go over the job opportunities with Safeguard Department. And we have 5 panelists joining me today. And I will now ask Herman to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Germán Sanz. I am from Chile. I study industrial engineer. I worked for almost 7 years in the Chilean Nuclear Energy Commission. Besides my normal responsibilities in the regulator, I had the opportunity to perform different trainings in different countries. In 2012, I had the great opportunity to do a traineeship program here in Vienna and also in Germany for almost 1 year. And I've been in the agency since 2015 as an inspector.
Thank you. Marie?
Hi, my name is Marie Monteith. I also work in the Department of Safeguards. I'm the planning and coordination officer there, which means that I manage the recruitment processes for nuclear safeguards inspectors. And I've been here since 2011.
Sarah?
Hi, my name is Sarah Poe. I'm a nuclear safeguards inspector from the USA. I've been with the IAEA since July of 2015. I was here first as a training officer, and now I've become an inspector since last year.
Thank you. Yossi?
I'm Yositalia Meiriza, as the nuclear safeguard inspector, and with the IAEA since April 2013, and from Indonesia.
Thank you. Jake?
Hi, I'm Jake McComb. I'm a safeguards inspector, and I'm from the U.S. My background is in nuclear engineering, specifically radiation detection and nuclear safety, before coming to the agency, and I started here in October 2017.
With this mandate, you can look at our organization in 2 pillars. To your left-hand side, we have Safeguard Department that carries out the IAEA duties and responsibility as the world's nuclear inspectorate, supporting global efforts to stop the spread of nuclear weapons for peace. And that's the Atom for Peace part of our mandate. And then we have it on your right-hand side, 4 departments that serve our member states, countries, to use nuclear science for development, and that's the Atom for Development part of it. And at the bottom, where I belong, so finally we have the Department of Management that provides a platform of services that enables the IAEA to successfully deliver its programs. So that includes departments such as finance, the conference services, and such as myself, the recruitment section is included in the management. So with this, I'll pass it to Marie to talk a little bit about IAEA's culture and what is it like to work at the IAEA.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as you can see from the slides here, I think the key points that we'd like to kind of draw to your attention are that this is a very diverse and dynamic organization. The people who come to work here will have an opportunity to make a really meaningful and valuable contribution to our objectives. And at the same time, they also have an opportunity to develop their careers, to use this as a stepping stone to their future, building networks, building their expertise, learning new skills. But to be honest with you, I think it's more helpful if we move as quickly as possible to actually hearing from the other people who are joining this panel today, because then you have a chance to listen to people who are doing the day-to-day work here. And specifically today, you'll be hearing from people who are working as nuclear safeguards inspectors. So I'm going to move on just to talk to you a little bit about the context in which these people are working here within the Department of Safeguards. Now, you can find a lot of information about the Department of Safeguards and about all of the divisions and offices that are listed here on our IAEA website, so I won't go into too much detail. But if we look at the divisions and offices that essentially provide the support to the verification activities that are undertaken by the Department of Safeguards, I'll go through them very briefly and summarize them. As Shuri said, the objective of our department is to deter the spread of nuclear weapons by the early detection of the misuse of nuclear material or technology. Therefore, we provide credible assurances that states are honouring their legal obligations and that nuclear material is being used only for peaceful purposes. The officers here support that process. You have the SGCP, the Division of Concepts and Planning, which is preparing safeguards policy and guidance documentations and assisting our operations departments with implementation. You have SGIM, the Division for Information Management. Their central task is to operate and develop a pool of specialised information analysts and data processing specialists. You also have SGTS, the Division of Technical and Scientific Services, which provides scientific and technical support to the divisions of operations. This includes designing, developing and maintaining safeguard equipment. You have SGAS, the Office of Office for Safeguards Analytical Services, and that's in charge of the analysis of nuclear material and environmental swipe samples. And in addition to that, you have SGIS, which is our Office of Communication and Information Systems. They develop and maintain our ICT technology and manage all our ICT infrastructure. In front of that, we have our Operations Divisions and the Office of Safeguards Verification in Iran. These three divisions in this office play a pivotal role in verifying that the states with safeguards agreements in force, there is no diversion of declared nuclear material from peaceful nuclear activities, and no indication of the undeclared nuclear material activities in the state as a whole. Now, the department currently has over 250 nuclear safeguards inspectors carrying out these critical verification activities. And that's what we'd like to talk about today. So, we are going to talk to you a little bit more about what it's like to be a nuclear safeguards inspector, talk to you a little bit about the mission and the role of the inspector. And just very broadly, inspectors are assigned to our Division of Operations or our Office for Verification in Iran, and they participate in IAEA safeguards verification activities. But you'll get a little bit more of a real view of that shortly. My colleagues here will talk to you a little bit about their induction process, the training process, how they applied, how they were recruited, and give you a view of the particular benefits and challenges that they face in their job. And then we will talk a little bit more about the recruitment process and what our ideal candidates look like, and sort of take you through how we run this on an annual basis.
Thank you, Marie. So let's hear from our nuclear inspectors, right? Personally, I always enjoy hearing from, their inspiration and motivation and what made you want to join IAEA as a nuclear inspector. Some of you came from the external agencies. Some of you came from the internal different departments. So let's hear who wants to start.
Okay. In my case, in my previous company, I had the opportunity to perform some safeguard-related activities as a state inspector. I assisted to some IAEA inspectors that visited Chile, as well as other agency staff that went to our country to implement technical cooperation programs. For example, during these years, in conjunction with my training opportunities done abroad, I understood the importance of the work that the IAEA is doing at a global level, and I wanted to be part of it. Also, I enjoy working in groups, in meetings, and receiving training with people from different countries and backgrounds. And I wanted to continue working at this level and keep growing as a professional, due to the fact that the IAEA gives not only an excellent opportunity of a job, it also looks for keeping us always up to date in the knowledge that you require to perform different activities. I don't know if...
Yeah. I can explain my sort of a decision to become an inspector. Like Herman, I was already in the safeguards and non-proliferation community. I'd been working to support the implementation of safeguards in member states through training courses and various activities prior to coming to the IAEA. And then while I was here as a training officer, I had more opportunities in that capacity. And I really valued the work of the inspector, and I really wanted to sort of take my participation to another level and get involved more than supporting implementation. So yeah, it's a really special job, and I'm happy that I made the decision.
Very good. Anybody else?
Yeah, sure. One thing for me, I think I mentioned in my introduction that I have a research background, mostly in radiation detection, and I think the operational aspect of the job was one thing that really appealed to me. Being able to put skills to use in the field is a really exciting thing, and I think this is probably the only job in the world where you can actually go step foot inside all these different facilities in many different countries and all across the nuclear fuel cycle.
Very good. Yes.
For me, it's like before I joined the agency, actually I'm one researcher in one of research institutes and university in Japan. So one of my topics at that time is non-proliferation resistance. At that time, so I also realized that if there are any challenging side in nuclear sector, that's really important for and contributing to betterment of the work. And after that, after I'm involved in this research, I try to apply for this safeguard inspector. And even after more than 6 years I'm working here, I feel like this my job still interests. I have this interesting in this job because we have to be like physically fit to do the in-field verification, and at the same time we have to be in the ready to have all of different situations. So we have to make sometimes the quick and the best decision at that time based on what knowledge and information we get. And this challenging for my my analytical technique and soft skills, and that's developed during my career here.
Very good. And I think it goes well with the next question that I have to the inspectors here. So what is the best and most challenging part of your job as an inspector? I'd love to hear maybe the best part of this job, perhaps.
Well, in my case, in a personal way to look at it, like it was mentioned before, having access to different facilities, meet people from different cultures, different nationalities, backgrounds, I think it gives you a unique learning experience and also personal development. In a more global sense, we could say that the fact that the job performed by our department contributes to the peaceful use of nuclear energy and the international security, I think is a great value.
Yeah. Jake, would you like to add?
Sure. Just to build up what Herman said, understanding everyone's role and communicating with people is definitely both a very rewarding and a challenging part of the job. You have to deal with a lot of people, especially when you're out in the field on inspection, facility operators, state representatives, and other inspectors, even other inspectors from organizations outside of the IAEA in some cases, and trying to work with all those people to reach a common goal isn't always easy, but it's a challenge, and it is really rewarding when you can do it successfully.
Yeah, and maybe I could add to that about the travel. I think it's one of the best parts about the job, but also one of the most challenging parts. We get to go to really interesting places and meet interesting people, but it also means time away from home, and I think that's also what's really special about this job as well.
Anything surprising that you encountered since you joined the IAEA as an inspector?
What was the most surprising, from what you thought it was going to be like, to what it's really like? What was the most surprising thing?
For me, it's like one of my first inspections that I drive
all going out into the middle of nowhere.
Right, yeah. Very good. Anybody else?
Well, I think there is also a lot of physical work that you don't expect to get at the beginning. You think that inspectors are going with a checklist in a facility with a little bit of equipment, but you end up with sometimes in some facilities you're required to carry quite some equipment, sometimes very heavy. And so I think that's why it was mentioned before that you need to be physically fit also for this job in some cases.
Yeah.
Anything else on the field work that perhaps you might want to share with the potential applicants?
For me, it's like maybe we have to manage our time properly, because sometimes we have to finish only time frame for our inspection this time. So we have to finish all of the activity in time frame, not only for in-field verification activity, but also we have the headquarter activity. We have to manage our time properly.
Yeah, very good.
I could add too, I'm maybe the most recent inspector of the group, so I've only been going on inspections for the last 4 months, but I've been, I guess, surprised by how different each inspection was from the other, because the facilities are so different and the activities are so different. I've been, I guess it's interesting because there's such a growth and learning experience from one inspection to the next.
Yoshi, you mentioned a little bit about your work at headquarters. Can you share a little bit more about, as an inspector, you're not only doing the field work, but you're also here at the headquarters and spending some time. So can you tell me a little bit about the work you do at the headquarters?
Yeah, before we plan for inspection, we have to plan our activity and prepare all of the safeguard verification activity. And after we come back, we have to complete all the reports and analyze and evaluate all the reports with regard of promptness, accuracy, completeness, and quality of presentation. And also, we have sometimes, depend on the facility, we have to review the surveillance and remote data transmission information from the site from the nuclear facility. And we also have to evaluate, review all the information we collected from the state declaration and from our verification activity, from open source, from IAEA, I think internal activity, internal information, so we can make the conclusion for to the senior management to have the conclusion for the state and board of governors. And then I think we have a lot of for the development of the new approach for the safeguard approach for facility, and usually we have also evaluation for 1-year inspection reports, how to do collection of this report. And from this time, we have to follow up action for the next activity or for the next inspection. And for the 1-year activity, usually we have the mass balance evaluation report. This evaluate and review all of the activity during 1 year for the conclusion.
Very good. Anybody else want to add?
Sure. To build up what Yoshi was saying, the results of our inspections hopefully don't, just sit on a shelf after we come back to headquarters, because we use that information. We help our senior management write correspondence that goes out to states and to the member states, and we also capture any findings that we have for future inspections, and it helps us in a continuous cycle of analysis and evaluation to plan future inspection activities.
Can I ask a question? And Sarah, I know you've not been here for long, but so maybe to the other three more. But what proportion of your time is spent in the field versus in headquarters? Like last year, for example, how many days were you traveling in the field? How would you?
Well, I think it depends on the activities, because sometimes in some facilities we have a lot of activities happening, like, for example, for transfer campaign. And for these kind of activities, we require a lot of inspections and on-site presence. And as I was explained before, in other countries, in other facilities, we have remote monitoring, so we can replace some of the human surveillance by cameras or things like that. So yeah, but in average, I will say 60 to 80 days in the field is like the normal time that you spend.
It depends on your area of responsibility as well, which operations section you're assigned to.
Yeah, so if you end up going to sort of Japan and the Far East, then you're much more likely to be on longer trips, but fewer trips during the course of the year. If you're in Europe, you're having more trips, but for shorter periods. And things like that.
Yeah, for me it's like 1 year we have like more than 20 trips because we have sometimes like maximum one week trip, around more than 80 until 100 days in the field.
Very good. So I think general advice we give to people applying is to expect roughly 100 days per year in the field, but it will fluctuate.
Okay. We talked a little bit about induction training in the beginning. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you went through in terms of training when you started, or perhaps you can share a little bit about continuous training that you're currently receiving?
Should I go? I just finished our ICAS course, our introductory course for agency safeguards inspectors. It's a 6-month intensive course for each new class of inspectors that come to the department. And it's a really unique time to sort of take a break from work and focus on learning the job, preparing yourself to going out into the field and taking on other responsibilities. With my class, we developed a really strong camaraderie with our cohort, and everyone brought different experiences to the table, so we were able to help each other where some had strengths or where others had weaknesses, and we built really strong bonds, I think, with our group, and I think that we'll continue to share those bonds as we continue to go on inspections, since we're all in different divisions and sections now. But I think that what I'm seeing now as I'm coming on board and starting to go on inspection is that this continual training, it's part of our jobs. It doesn't stop once you finish ICAS. So there's a mentoring process, and there's lots to learn as you grow as an inspector.
And there's also other formal training opportunities once you finish the introductory course as well. I've only been here maybe a year longer than Sarah, and I've already had the opportunity to take some of these courses out in the field, non-destructive assay courses, spent fuel courses. There's a wide range of learning that inspectors can take advantage of.
Sarah, the other day, I think you shared with me about the mentor program here, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think there's more of an effort to pair up new inspectors with more experienced inspectors once they come on board into each section. And that's been really helpful. But I think it's important for new inspectors to be proactive and really seek out advice and help, because the job is so diverse, and you really need to look for others to gain all the expertise that you need to do the job. So.
Yeah, I think the mentoring program is good, but I think in this house you can ask anyone. We are like 250 inspectors, and I think everybody has something to contribute because we come from different countries and with different backgrounds. So you can, and people here is really willing to help you. They are very open, and so.
Yeah. There's a lot of teamwork that goes involved. For preparing for each inspection, you have to talk to many people to get all the information you need. So.
I think Marie touched a little bit earlier, but it's the culture piece of it, right? As an IAEA employee, most of us are from elsewhere, so I think there is a definite sort of support system that you develop, and I'm not in the safeguard department, but I can definitely speak to my department. We're quite open. We have an open door policy. If you have any questions, you can ask your coworker or managers or anybody here. So. I just wanted to add that here. Anything else on the training or?
Well, just to add, just to summarize, I think we perform different kind of activities like physical inventory verification, design information verification, servicing and calibrating equipment, and all these different activities that we have to do require some specific knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's why it was also mentioned before that we require always to update our knowledge to go to. It's not that you started with ICAS 6 months and then you're ready. You always have to keep studying and going to different trainings depending on the challenges that you have in your section.
Very good. So we'll move on to the next question. So locations. So today, all of us are actually stationed in Vienna, our headquarters. Just for your information, we do have offices in Tokyo and Toronto. So there might be a career opportunity for you if you join the IAEA as an inspector to go to Tokyo or Toronto. If there is an opportunity at the time. So I wanted to ask the panel here, what is your life like in Vienna? What are the things that you love about Vienna? Tell me a little bit about your living situation, not living situation, but, Tell me about what you think of the city.
Well, in my case, I think Vienna is a great city. It's very safe. There is always something to do. You can just Google what to do in Vienna on Saturday, and there will be many events.
Right, yeah.
Even in Facebook, there are many groups that, for example, there is a group called Women in Vienna. My wife is part of this group, and when she cannot find anything to do, she goes to the group and posts something, and there is always something that they are doing.
They do post a lot.
Yeah. And also there are many cultural events, big green areas. The quality of the air and the water is great. So yeah, for me especially, I come from Santiago, it's quite polluted.
If you like the outdoors, Vienna is a great place. I'm a runner, and there's a lot of nice places to run, a lot of good parks. All seasons there's things to do outside. There's also vineyards up in the hills too, if you enjoy wine.
Skiing in winter, swimming in the rivers and the lakes in the summer. Perfect climate.
Yeah.
And I have children, so I just add that if you're coming here with a family and you have children, then this is also an amazing place to settle. You have a number of international schools here that are available. You also have a number of state schools where you have bilingual state schools and you have German-speaking state schools, and they're all very impressive, and you feel like you have a lot of choice for how to settle with your children. And if your children are younger and you're looking at kindergartens, again, there are a number of international kindergartens, bilingual kindergartens, and state kindergartens. And the IAEA itself has a kindergarten within the grounds here. So, and the way in which you settle here and the support that's offered to you when you arrive here means that it can be very easy to sort of sort yourself out with accommodation and to settle your family and to find the right place for you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So this is Jory again. I recently joined the IAEA just about 3 months ago, and we moved from the U.S., but in terms of the visa support, I didn't have to worry about figuring out the visa to work in Vienna. The location is completely paid for, so that was another thing that I didn't have to worry so much about. So in terms of the onboarding and just kind of making your fears of international relocation, I think that helped quite a bit for me. And also as a new mom, affordability of the child care is quite great, and I can now see the reason why Vienna was voted the most livable city in 10 years in a row, right, I think? So, I can say.
And I came here with a 6-week-old baby, and I thought this was going to be a nightmare, but actually it was amazing. There were There are baby groups in Vienna that cater to people with a variety of different languages, and there are lots of networking groups and lots of support. So, you know, it's going to be very helpful.
I have a funny question. How are you commuting? Because, you know, if you're from Japan, I would be in a subway, maybe 45 minutes to get to my office, and you're kind of stuck in like a can of sardine. So tell me about your commute here.
For me, I'm only by walking.
Yep. There is plenty of housing nearby.
Yeah,
Walking distance.
I can take the U-Bahn in 7 minutes, I think, or I can ride my bike in about 5 minutes if I catch every green light. So it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's great. I'm coming from Washington, D.C., where my commute was sometimes more than an hour one way, and now it's under 20 minutes on the metro. So it's really nice.
Yeah, I think that improves a lot of the quality of life because you spend less time in the subway and more time with your family. So my case is also, for me it was surprisingly when I first entered to the subway and it was quite empty. In Santiago, as you said, is also very packed. Many people inside. You have to push people to get in.
Right.
But here is always there is always space. Even you can take your bicycle inside of the subway. It's really good.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing is the safety too, right? I do see school children riding a tram on their own to get to schools, right? And some of the things is invaluable to me. So I think the safety is great here. All right. So finally, I have a last question to the panel. I thought that I could utilize this time to get little career advice, and also for the audience here, maybe you can share a little bit about how did you prepare for the interviews, and tell me a little bit about the recruitment process.
There you go. Sure. Maybe I could give a little bit of advice. I think there's just a wealth of information available on our website under the verification or safeguards and verification portion of the IAEA website. And I really encourage you to read not just about the IAEA, but the department, and understand our mission. And you can find guidance documents, and you can find videos. There's all sorts of fact sheets, or implementation report. There's all sorts of things. It's really good to read it and understand our work to prepare yourself for the application and the interview.
Yeah. I think to complement a little bit what Sarah mentioned, the website is really good. Also, if you have an opportunity to come to the IAEA for a short term, like for example for a meeting or for a training, please take it, because these chances give you the opportunity to feel a little bit how is the environment here, and to start to meet people and make some contacts. And also if you come, you can ask questions always.
I think I might also mention, I was trying to calculate exactly how many, but let's say I've participated in over 300 inspector interviews now in my time here. I think the thing is lots of people get very nervous beforehand. But as Sarah says, if you've prepared well, there are lots of sources of information. Maybe you know people who work here. Maybe you can access the website. There are links that will be there, and you'll be talking about them later, about things that people can go to get more information. If you've prepared well, and if you try and think of this, it feels like an exam or a test, but it's not an exam or a test. This is an opportunity for you to find out if you would fit in this organization, and it's an opportunity for the people interviewing you to look at that too. So it's more of a conversation than a scary test. And so I think approach it in that way and see it as that opportunity, but prepare well, because the people who are sitting there will be interviewing lots of people at any given time. In this annual process, we probably have anything from 10 to 25 positions that we're recruiting to. A lot of people will be considered, and so think of this as your 45 minutes to show yourself and just to best demonstrate your skills and expertise, and think of it like that.
Yeah, and I'll also add that I don't think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't have anything on my resume that explicitly said nuclear safeguards before I came here. But if you read about safeguards and understand a bit about what the agency does and think about how your skills can be applied as a safeguards inspector or someone else in the department, that can really serve you well in the interview process.
Yeah. Maybe I can add to that too. I think the competencies are so important in the job application. And it's really important to think of how you can demonstrate in concrete examples how you can show those competencies. And that might not mean that you have specific experience related to safeguards, but if you can show that you have resiliency and teamwork and analytical thinking, then that's really important.
Absolutely. And I think as well, when you're writing your application form, if you're thinking of submitting an application form, then think about things like the letter of motivation that you're going to be writing to explain why you're applying for this position. Think about things like how you express your experience to date. Your experience, as you said, may not be all about nuclear safeguards, but think about how your experience is relevant to the jobs that we've advertised and demonstrate for us how you see your experience is relevant. And that's the key thing here, I think, so that people can see why you fit. Which kind of brings us on to the ideal candidate profile. I think if you've been listening here to everyone talking about their experience and their role, you will be seeing by now that we have a wide range of positions, and there is no single candidate profile. As we've said, we have over 250 inspectors. They're not all the same. We have people who've come from a diverse range of backgrounds, from different educational backgrounds. They have a different range of experience. And together, they make the right team that we're looking for to carry out the verification activities for the agency. So I think what I would say is really important is Sarah mentioned the competencies and to ensure that the people that we're recruiting have those core competencies that we're looking for at an agency level, but also have the competencies that we're looking for in these posts. And I think the inspector posts are rather unique within the agency, because we are not recruiting people who we expect to be able to do the job the moment they arrive here. We are offering 6 months of training to ensure that people reach the same level and that they can go out and undertake the work that is expected of them. And that means that what we're looking for are people who have the ability to learn and the willingness to learn. We're looking for people who are flexible, resilient, as has already been said. We're looking for people with the right personal skill set who can then be trained and can develop their skills to become effective inspectors. Now, yes, we are looking for people with a certain education background, and we are looking for, some experience that's relevant to the area, but we are quite open in that area in how we've advertised this position. So really it's about the balance of skills and experience and education that you bring here and your personal profile. So I just think emphasize that.
So with that, I'd like to share our selection process. So I'm going to speak a little bit broadly, so going beyond inspectors and in general at the IAEA. This is what the process looks like. So first of all, you would identify the position you're interested in, and you will submit the application via our website. And this is where the hiring manager, with the support of the recruitment team, he or she goes through every single application we receive. The next 2 green circles, these are non-compulsory steps. So depending on the position, the hiring manager might choose to do this or not. So it's really depending on the position and how these steps can help filter the best of the best candidate out of all the applicants we receive. In particular, when we talk about the nuclear inspector positions, we're not doing the written technical test, however.
No, we don't do a written technical test as a filter, but we do ask everyone that we interview to complete a written test.
Okay.
So it's part of the evaluation process, but not as a filter.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. And then the compulsory last step is the competency-based panel interviews. We do host a live webinar on each of the steps, including the video pre-screening assessment and the technical test portion of it. So if you're interested to learn a bit more about our application process and how to prepare for each step, feel free to register for our webinars, and you can also find our past webinars posted on our website. And then finally, with the conclusion of the competency-based panel interview, the hiring panel make a recommendation to selecting authorities. So again, where to find us? You can find us on the www.iaea.org/employment. You can also email us at mthr.talent-outreach@iaea.org. As I said, this website hosts a lot of information in terms of how to prepare application to looking for your the vacancy that you might be interested in. We are also quite active on the social media as well. So if you want to be kept updated on our current activities and news and posting, feel free to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Flickr, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We mentioned a little bit about the more reading material for the specific to safeguard inspector job. We have a great article on our website called A Day in the Life of Safeguard Inspector. So you can easily find this article by searching by this title. And I would highly encourage you to read this as a preparation for submitting application. And then we also have videos as well. You can hear and learn a little bit more about the safeguards and verification. As I said earlier, we do have other big part of the cooperation pillar of what we do here too. So if you're interested in those, we can also see that there too. So with this, we will conclude our the panelist roundtable part of it. And if you have any questions to the panel or for Marie or myself, feel free to use the chat section and ask us any questions.
So the first question that I'm looking at was about whether somebody with maybe a little less experience, a young professional, an early career professional with less than 2 years experience in the field could apply for a job in the safeguards department. And the answer is yes. That is a little light on experience for a P3 inspector role, but we do have more junior positions at the P1 and P2 level. And we also offer a select number of internships within the Department of Safeguards, which can also be appropriate for early career professionals. I mean, they are internships, so the salary isn't exactly stunning, but it is a really good opportunity to come in and get some experience here. But all of those vacancies will appear on the IAEA website, so look out for those kind of P1, P2 level jobs. And with regards to internships, you can submit an application for intern positions that would come up across the IAEA, and if something comes up for which you might be suitable, you will be contacted. Yeah. Somebody is asking a question about physical standards for inspectors. What I would note is that in order to work at the IAEA, you do have to undergo a medical if you were successful and an offer was made, and that is just a standard medical. But it is worth thinking about the fact that an inspector works in the field. They are carrying their own equipment. You may have to climb ladders. I think that's something that Mana said we found quite surprising when he first arrived. There are ladders, there may be restricted spaces, confined spaces. So having a sort of a basic level of fitness would be required. With regards to specific qualifications or experience required for safeguards inspectors, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but I would encourage you to look at the vacancy notice, which is currently advertised on the vacancies page, and there is a very clear breakdown there of the sort of education requirements and the experience requirements. We're not looking for one specific degree or one specific background, but we do have a range or a remit in which that we're looking for.
Well, we have a question that if it's possible to be hired as an inspector if I don't have experience in safeguard. I would say that it's not specifically required to have experience in safeguard, but it's important to have experience in the nuclear fuel cycle. So if you have worked in any part of the nuclear fuel cycle, it means reactors, research reactors, as a regulator, even in conversion facilities, enrichment facilities, any kind of nuclear experience will be very valuable for the agency, in my opinion.
There was a question about the timing of the recruitment process. Obviously, we are recruiting to multiple positions, and that means we do have quite a large group of people to consider, and that means that it can feel like it's taking a long time to proceed. But we are aiming to bring the next round of P3 inspectors in for early 2020. So the end of January, beginning of February. That's our kind of ideal. That means that we will start to approach people for interviews in mid to late summer. But as I said, there is quite a long process that we go through, so don't be surprised if you don't hear immediately after applying.
So there's one question about during the training period, which courses are we talking about? So during this introductory course for agency safeguards, inspectors are learning the legal framework that safeguards exists. We're learning about nuclear material accounting. We're learning about design information, verification, also different stages of the nuclear fuel cycle in more depth. We're learning how to do the job. Did I miss any?
Yeah, also techniques that we use in the field,
Of course.
non-destructive assay techniques, environmental sampling, contaminant surveillance, and you can read about some of the specific techniques if you go onto the website.
Nowadays, I think they included one or two modules about soft skills because they are also very important. Sometimes you have to deal with the operator and to perform your activity, so you need some resilience, as somebody mentioned. Also, how to communicate because you are traveling to countries where they don't speak your language, so you need to find the ways to communicate with the operator in order to perform your job.
Thank you.
So there's a general question about the UK postgraduate diploma level 7, and I can confirm that that is considered as a master's level degree. However, that level is not required for the P3 nuclear safeguards inspectors.
There's a question here about whether there's an internship program at the Safeguards Department for preparing safeguards inspectors. We don't have an internship program for safeguards inspectors. In fact, very specifically, we don't allow interns within the operations department or the Office of Verification in Iran. Our interns are assigned to our support division, our technical divisions. But we do have a safeguards traineeship program. This is something that's offered by the Department of Safeguards, and member states submit applications. And so we take a small number of people in for this safeguards traineeship program every year. And if you want more information on that, I think you can see some information on the IAEA website. There's a question here about whether people can move from being safeguards inspectors to taking on other roles within the Department of Safeguards or within the IAEA. One thing I would note as a cautionary note at the start is to say that obviously initial appointments with us are for 3 years. There is the possibility of further extensions, but 7 years is generally the maximum tenure of contract at the IAEA. However, it is of course possible for people to apply for other jobs once they're working here. I know a number of people who started as inspectors and moved to training or analysis. I know a number of people who started out in training, as Sarah did, and then moved to becoming inspectors. So yes, there is definitely mobility and flexibility in roles, but within that kind of the caution of not expecting there to be a long-term career necessarily.
All right, with this, we'll conclude today's webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and thank you so much for your panelists as well. Bye-bye.